is Asia Brown. I am a program manager on the product inclusion and equity team here at Google. Before we get started, just a quick reminder that we will be opening things up for Q&A later on, so please be sure to add your questions to the live chat on the right. All right, let's get things started. Today, I have the honor of interviewing and learning more about the world-renowned home organizing expert, Shira Gill. Shira is a professional organizer, life coach, and author of Minimalista and her new book, Organized Living, which we will be discussing today. She has worked with everyone from A-list celebrities, Olympic athletes, and tech entrepreneurs to get their homes and lives in order. She is the creative force behind Shira Gill Home, a lifestyle brand, and popular blog. Additionally, she is the founder of the 15-Minute Win productivity hack. Her virtual closet makeover program and virtual workspace makeover program have sold out instantly. She has also been featured in various well-known publications. In her book, Organized Living, Shira showcases the homes of 25 international home organizers, offering an exclusive behind-the-scenes look into their meticulously kept world. She covers everything from sustainability to mental decluttering, productivity, and clever organizing strategies you can apply to your own home. As you can probably tell, Shira is passionate about helping people create spaces that look good, feel good, and improve their lives on every level. Please join me in welcoming Shira Gill.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Super excited to have you here today. So let us know, how did you come up with the idea for your book?
Yeah, so Organized Living is my second book that just came out a week or so ago. I had this idea. I was just on a walk. I take solo walks every morning, and I was walking down the street, and I was just sort of thinking about how curious I was about other people's homes, and that as a professional organizer, I've been in the field for about 15 years. So I've made friends with a lot of other professional organizers and had occasion to go to their homes and snoop around and ask, how do you do this? How do you set up under your kitchen sink, or show me your storage area, right? And luckily my colleagues were all very happy to let me snoop around and answer my nosy questions. So I'm just walking down the street and I just had this idea, there's so many books about how designers live and homes of designers, but home organizing is a relatively new profession. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have a book that features the homes of real home organizers, how they actually live, and, showcases all of their unique tips and tricks and strategies.
That's amazing. I loved reading about the details in each home. So what was the selection process for you as you were selecting these 25?
Yeah, so I knew I had decided with my publisher that we wanted to have no more than 25 people. They thought 25 was even a little excessive. But I was like, no, we have to have 25. And so I obviously knew a handful of people, but I really wanted to go very broad with my search. And so I did kind of a call for global submissions that I put on my website, on my Instagram. I asked all of my colleagues and friends to share on their networks. And it was really fascinating. So I let people just apply from all over the world and tell me a little bit about their story, their perspective on home organizing, and share a few pictures of their homes. And what was most important to me is I really wanted to showcase a diverse range of people, families, lifestyles, locations, and homes. And so during the selection process, I was really looking at, do I have someone in a rental? Do I have someone in a studio apartment? Do I have a mom with 5 kids? I wanted to really have every type of situation. So of the hundreds and hundreds that we received, we kind of whittled it down to 25 people who felt representative of a lot of different backgrounds and perspectives.
Nice. That's awesome. You did your research.
I did. Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say, it was also when we did it, it was in the heart of COVID. And so some of the people who applied were in places like Australia or New Zealand that were restricted in terms of travel. So that was the one thing that we had to keep in mind, because I actually traveled with a photographer around the world to meet all of these people. So as much as we really wanted to hit every continent, we did as best as we could with the parameters that we had.
Yes. Well, you did a phenomenal job, I must say.
Thank you.
So in both the book and in many interviews, you reference your dining room table. Is that your favorite place to organize?
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I'm sitting at it right now. I don't think the viewers can see it, but it's become my headquarters for everything. And you can see behind me, there's kind of these white built-in shelves, cabinets. And we live in a 1,200 square foot home. It's me, my husband, my 2 teenage daughters, and a dog. And because we're in a smaller space and our house is over 100 years old, we have very limited storage. So one of the things that I did in this home is I created this kind of enclosed system behind me that literally is like our family general store. So I have my work supplies, my podcasting supplies, but then we also have like entertaining stuff, vases, stickers, craft supplies, gift wrap. So everything that we own, because we have very little storage, is right behind me. But what I love is that it's all kind of concealed behind closed doors. So I would say this is definitely the hardest working area of our home for sure.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I read your book, I mentioned this. I found 2 things immediately that we had in common. We're both from the Bay Area and we both have a love for travel. And so I know for myself, when I travel the world, I love coming back because I'm really into fashion. I love coming back with different outfits or jewelry that is inspired by the place or the culture that I was in. So when you travel, I know you are a minimalist, but would you say that you come home and become re-inspired on decor in your home?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, what's funny is I think typically when I travel, I'm traveling to places that maybe value consumerism less so than Americans. And so I feel like often what actually inspires me is living with even less. And, I think I've spent a fair amount of time in Europe and in Mexico. And I feel like whenever I come home, I have this feeling of like, I want to dive more into my life and into experiences and less into consumerism. So that's a funny way of answering your question, but I think it's almost like I get home and I just want to get rid of more. The exception would be, during the creation of this book, I did meet people who had incredible style, whether it was art or textiles or just how they arranged things. And I think like one example is when I was in Stockholm, and one of the organizers just put these little dried flowers all throughout her home in unexpected places, like in a utilitarian space, like a linen closet. You'd open it up and it would be beautiful and have dried flowers. So I think that really inspired me to think about those hardworking areas of your home that usually just feel like they're utilitarian, but they have no aesthetic value. And I started thinking, how can I actually elevate and beautify those spaces in my home?
Yes, that makes sense. So I am sure that most professional organizers actually look up to you. They look up to you for advice through your training programs or tips on creating successful organizing businesses. Do you have any role models in the home organizing space?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I started my business 15 years ago when I was 8 months pregnant with my daughter and I got laid off from an event planning job. And so it was sort of a scramble. I was not an entrepreneur by design. And at the time, home organizing was not in the vernacular. It was not a established profession. So I guess I actually had nobody really to look up to. I was like, is this even a thing? Is this a profession? And I would say as I've gotten more and more into the field, and now there's hundreds and thousands of organizers around the globe, I've met people who really inspire me in terms of their philosophy and their ethos. A few examples would be actually from my book. So Tinka Markham Piper, who is in Montreal, she is an organizer who combines mental health and home organizing and design. And I think when people think about organizing and certainly minimalism, they kind of conjure up this stark aesthetic that feels very cold and uninviting. And she's someone who embraces color and art and texture, and her home and the way that she does her business is just so vibrant and alive. And I love the mental health component. And one other example I would give is my friend Julian, who I met through the book, who's in Paris, and he is a zero waste organizer. And so he doesn't buy new things. And I think often people equate organizing with running out to purchase products. And in fact, organizing is a skill and you don't need to buy anything. And so I really appreciate his philosophy, which is very much rooted in sustainability.
Yes, I love too, like in the book, you do talk often about sustainability and the direct correlation of having an organized home and the mental decluttering that happens as a result of it. So
Yes.
love to hear that. I actually saw a statistic earlier this year that said 16.9 million people in the US currently describe themselves as digital nomads. And that same study revealed, I was very surprised by that. And that same study revealed that 72 million US citizens were planning to become digital nomads within the next 2 to 3 years. And so I noticed that quite a few of the professional organizers that you interviewed had a history of a nomadic life. I know you also mentioned navigating your parents' divorce and shuffling between homes. And so I was curious, like, what advice would you have for someone who's thinking to move into this digital nomadic life and staying
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so I've moved 25 times in my life.
Wow.
Part of that was by design because I love travel, and part of it was being a child of divorce and having a few different homes. And but I think that now, because we live during such a digital age, it's become easier than ever to live a nomadic life. I think I always start any big transition or process with just asking why. Like, why do you want this? What are you going after? What do you want to create that you don't have now? Like, what's the purpose of this? I've definitely coached a lot of people who have wanted to downsize for the sake of freedom. And in fact, one of the organizers in the book, Xiomara Romero, went from living in this huge house and owning 300 pairs of shoes to downsizing. And she now lives in an Airstream trailer that's 200 square feet with her husband. And I just recently spent time with her, and it was so interesting because her feeling of abundance and freedom that she's cultivated by owning less is so incredible. And she's now taken her organizing business on the road. And so she drives to different cities and lets people know where she's coming. And so I think often the nomadic lifestyle is about freedom. But I guess the advice would be, like, figure out why you want to be nomadic. Like, what is the goal? And then what are the most important things for you to keep? And what are the things that are going to bring you value and elevate that experience? And what are the things that are just going to create clutter and distraction?
Yes, those are great questions to ask. I think even whether you're nomadic or not, I can definitely benefit from asking myself those questions. So you asked all the organizers these questions, and I'm sure the audience would like to know your answers to these. So how would you describe your morning routine?
Oh, well, it's not very glamorous, but my morning routine, I wake up around 7. And the one positive thing for me that came out of COVID actually is I started taking solo walks every morning, mainly because I couldn't go to a spin class or a yoga studio or the things that I tended to do. So that is like my big goal. If I do nothing else for the morning, it's just take a solo walk, and ideally don't run to my phone and start checking email. So that's number one. Then I come back, I try to gulp down a huge glass of water, make sure my kids are up. Luckily, they're now 12 and 14, so they're fairly independent in the morning to kind of like figure out breakfast and get out the door. So everyone in my family, I would say, is out the door by about 8:30, and that's when I start digging into work. And so really it's just, and I get myself ready, obviously, like I do shower and I get dressed. I'm not a breakfast person. I'm a lunch, snack, and dinner person. So I guess that maybe saves time. I just am a person who doesn't wake up hungry. So I take my walk, I get ready, I dive into my day, and then I usually have a nice big early lunch after I've gotten in some big focus time.
Nice. Sounds like a very full day.
I'm busy. Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest home organizing challenge?
So I mentioned we are living in a small house. So me and my two kids and my husband share one itty bitty bathroom. And when I say itty bitty, it's like we can't comfortably stand in it together and brush our teeth. So it's like a one person at a time situation. And our bathroom has 2 drawers is all that it has in terms of storage. So I would say hands down, that's been the biggest challenge for our family, is figuring out how we have like the toothbrushes and the face washes of all the people without this tiny space feeling cramped and overrun. My big hack there has just been sharing. So we share one body wash, one shampoo, and one conditioner for all 4 of us. And we don't have a lot of backup products. So it's a real like just what you need, just what you use every day gets stored in the bathroom. And luckily we're in a city, so we have access to everything very easily when we need to replenish.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds extremely sustainable. I think sometimes we have more than what we need in our home, so I love this.
Yeah, I can tell you the bathroom is an area where I've literally had people like breaking down and crying by like the level of their own waste. And it's a place where like it's so easy to keep buying more products and just lose track of what you already own. Unfortunately, toiletries can rarely be donated. And so it's a place where I'm really passionate about telling people like, buy what you need, use it up, and then replace. And because of that kind of fewer, better ethos, you can actually buy much nicer things and treat yourself and still save money and still have it be a very sustainable solution.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. If you have a lot of clutter, you may be like, oh, I need toothpaste, and you already have it, but you don't know where it is.
Yeah. I mean, my husband used to buy lasagna noodles like every other day. And then I was like, I think we have 25 boxes of lasagna noodles. Like, could you stop?
Yeah.
So it's very easy to lose track of what you own. And I think if you're always shopping with an intentionality of, do I need this thing? Am I replacing something that has run out? Do I have something that could do this job just as well? You will save a lot of money.
Yes, I agree. What is something that people would be surprised to know about you?
I have terrible handwriting. Nobody believes me. It's a little off brand because, you know, my brand is very like orderly and contained, and my handwriting is practically illegible even to myself. So I think that's probably it. Maybe I think people assume that I will judge their spaces. And that's another misconception, I think, just about organizers in general. I think it really is a helping profession. It's a service profession of people that want to help other people create transformation and change and aren't there to judge or point or laugh. But I've even had close friends who were like, you're not coming in my house. And so I just want to dispel that myth that we are judgy type A people. It's really more that there's a motivation around wanting to help create positive change. It's not about pointing out negativity.
Yeah, that makes sense. And relieving as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. What valuable career advice have you been given as you've been navigating this space?
I think the best career advice I got was from a mentor of mine named Brooke Castillo. She was the founder of the life coach school where I trained and got certified. And she said something I never forgot, which was discomfort is the currency to your dreams. And I think that I had always thought when you feel uncomfortable, if you feel like deeply uncomfortable about doing something or taking an action, it may mean that's not the right thing. But in fact, what I learned is that most times it's just your human brain that is wired to protect you and wants to keep things safe and cozy. And so if you ever want to get to the next level, there is amount of discomfort that's required. So I think for me, now having published 2 books and having a third on my way, like each milestone that I've gone towards, there has been a sense of real growing pains, whether that's like imposter syndrome or self-doubt or just feeling deeply uncomfortable. And I think what I used to think was that means stop. That means this isn't right. I'm not headed in the right direction. Like my body's telling me something's wrong. Now I think what I learned is, no, this is just part of the process. Like if you want to do big things, you've got to be prepared to be really uncomfortable and allow it and keep taking action.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So in your book, you mentioned some of the professional organizers had snacks like that they greet their guests with. What would you say that your guests are greeted with or your place of for?
Well, you might appreciate this as a Bay Area native, but It's the San Francisco treat.
Yes.
So for those who don't know, it's like an ice cream sandwich with 2 cookies dipped in chocolate. It's a serious treat. But it is my guilty pleasure, and I always have them. The mint and the coffee specifically. And so when people come to our house, they are always offered either an It's It or some form of ice cream. I definitely have a sweet tooth issue.
Doesn't seem like a problem to me. I'm like, also,
yeah, it's working.
Yeah. Also, sounds like I need to be your next guest. I love It's It. So
come on over. Yeah.
So you interviewed quite a few, like 25 specifically, pro organizers who have beautiful mansions and studios and Airstream trailers. If you had the opportunity to swap homes with any of them, which home would you swap with?
Ooh, gosh. I feel like probably, so there's one that's already in the works as an official house swap, which is Marie, who lives in Paris. And her home is only 600 square feet, but it is like an exercise in restraint and beauty and functionality. And it's in an incredible neighborhood in Paris. And she also has 2 kids and is married. So we talked about doing a house swap if we can align our schedules. But any excuse to go to Paris. And I think being in an even smaller space, for me, that's exciting. Like I love small space living, and her home is so beautiful. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Paris is always a good idea.
Right? Can't go wrong.
Yeah, like any excuse to get to Paris. One last question before I open it up for questions from the audience. Did you learn any new organizing tips while talking to the other professional organizers?
Yeah, so many. I mean, I would say, I built my business around minimalism and sustainability and also organization, but I am not, I don't have a handy bone in my body. I'm not like a hack or a crafter. And there were so many people who I interviewed who just had a skill set that I didn't have. So everything from like how they corralled their cables under their desk so you couldn't see any cords. That was a big one. There was one that I loved. I talked a little about elevating the hidden spaces in our home, but there were many organizers who the area under their kitchen or bathroom sink was so lovely. And that kind of blew my mind. Like, that's possible. And so there's one in particular, her name is Wiebke, and she's from Germany, but lives in Oakland. And I call her the glass jar lady because everything she owns is in a glass jar. And so I looked under her kitchen sink and I was like, and literally everything was in a beautiful labeled glass jar, from like her sponge to her gloves for cleaning to like the dishwasher soap. And it was just this like beautiful arranged row of products with no plastic, no packaging, no flashy labels. And so that really inspired me. I definitely went home and, took my under kitchen sink area by storm.
Wow.
That was a good one. And then the other one I wanted to mention, Life in General, who's an LA-based organizer, had this brilliant hack where she took a hanging toiletry kit, like an organizer that you would take, where you would have little pockets for like your products on a trip. And she used that to corral all of her different cords with labels. So it would say, like iPhone charger, MacBook Air charger. And so instead of having like cord spaghetti, like all dumped somewhere and having to like go through the piles to find the cord you need, she could just unroll this like beautifully organized toiletry kit. And it was also portable. And so many of us are working from home now. So I loved that you could actually roll it up, put it in your bag, take it on your trip, or take it to a cafe or wherever you want. So yeah, I mean, there were so many, but those kind of stood out to me: the under the kitchen sink, the cords, and just generally, like, I think seeing how different organizers think was really interesting to me. That, I have this like extreme minimalist philosophy, but I had organizers in the book that were like, no, I love stuff. I love collections. It's just about having the right system and containment for them. And so there were some great examples of that, of like, you can, if you're a person who wants, to have collections, or you have lots of hobbies that involve gear, there's a way to elevate the organization of those things that just creates more ease in your life, but you don't necessarily have to throw out half of your things.
Yes. Super helpful tips. I love this.
Great.
I could definitely use one of the cord organizers. I feel like you like pull up a cord and you're like, I don't know what this is connected
right.
to.
I know. We've all had that moment of like racing out the door and you're like, I need this one charging cable. And now like, you're just like in the rabbit hole. So yeah, those little things, I think, with organization, it's easy to think like organization is the means to an end, but I really think of it as like, organization is actually a tool that you can use to improve your life. And so it's about looking around your home and your environment and asking yourself, like, what do I want to do? How do I want to spend my time? What are my values? And then, are the things that I own actually bringing me value and getting me closer to those goals, or are they hindering them? So that's what really interests me about this work.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. Okay, so we are going to move on to the Q&A portion of this talk.
Great.
Let's see. Do we have any questions? Okay, Anastasia Valina, she asks, do you have any processes as a part of daily life that help you to keep your spaces organized? How often do you decide to go back to the whiteboard and reorganize?
Yeah, I love that question. I think, in my home, it's really three things. And these are three things that I found across the board that all organizers practice. It's like, number one, stopping volume at the front door so that you just have less to manage. Number two, creating very simple systems that are intuitive and easy for you, and if you're living with a family or roommates. But three, which I think doesn't get talked about enough, is those daily habits. And I think You could have the best systems in the world. You could have a professional organizer come and organize every single bin and basket and closet and cabinet in your home. But if you don't have a way of integrating habits, it's not going to stick. So I would say like the practical, tactical things that I do every day are before I leave the house, the dishes are done and the counters are cleaned off, even if it just takes 3 minutes to knock it out. I don't ever want to come home to a pile of dirty dishes. So either me or my husband or my kids, like we all know, like if someone's leaving the house, like we're leaving it in good shape for the rest of us. And then one of the biggest things is just when you enter the home, it's so easy to kind of just drop everything by the front door, or on the kitchen counter or on the dining room table. I like to kind of make coming in the front door almost like a dance where it's like, this gets dropped here, this gets dropped here, and now I'm done and things are where they're supposed to be. So that applies to even if like I have a bag of groceries, a dog leash, a handbag, headphones, and my kids' stuff. It only takes 3 seconds for me to plop those in the right places as opposed to dumping them in the wrong place. And so I think often people feel like, oh, it's such a hassle, I'm exhausted. But there really is a compound effect of those tiny little actions that you can integrate into your day to put things back, to reset your space in the transition time, after breakfast, before bed, when you wake up, before you leave for your workday. Like, am I leaving things in good shape as like a gift to my future self? Oh, I just lost volume on you. There you are.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. That actually reminds me of your 15-minute win productivity hack of just like dedicating 15 minutes per day to reorganize. So love that you mentioned that. And we all have 15 minutes to spare, but it just makes it feel more bite-sized and doable. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Farah Simone, can you describe your creative process while writing a book?
Oh, yeah. I love that question. So essentially, usually I get hit by a big idea. And I then write down as a means of making an outline for myself. What are the things that I want the reader to know by reading this book? So if I answer that question well, typically that helps me create an outline for the writing process. So like for this book, for example, it was easy to organize because it was 25 organizers and each organizer got a chapter. So then I started thinking in terms of 25 increments plus an introduction and a conclusion. So I then thought, okay, I have 27 chunks. It's kind of like writing 27 mini articles. And writing a book can feel incredibly huge and overwhelming, but writing a short article or an essay, most of us can wrap our brains around. So what I did at that point is I basically said, okay, if I have 27 mini articles to create this one book, I'm going to try to write a bad rough draft of each one a week for 27 weeks. And then I'm going to leave myself a month to go over all of it and refine it and tweak it and get it in better shape. So that's typically my process in terms of like how I write. When I write, I always write better in the morning. And so if I'm on a book deadline, I tend to pop out of bed, take my morning walk, and then just sit for 2 to 3 hours and write. I found even if I have the time of sitting for like 8 hours straight, my brain can't focus for that long on one thing and my work starts decreasing in value. So I found my sweet spot is like 2 hours of focus time a day, trying to knock out a chapter a week. And giving myself permission, I would say also for that chapter to be subpar. I think that's the biggest thing is that writers want to write a perfect first draft and it's impossible. And so what gets me out of my head and out of overwhelm is saying, all I have to do is complete this, but it doesn't have to be great. I have time for that later.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's easy to strive for perfection. So thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
Next question. Dima says, what are your habits for organizing for traveling or when arriving back home?
Okay, so for traveling, I only use a small carry-on suitcase no matter where I'm going or for how long. And so I've curated kind of a travel kit that I keep in a bin that has the things that I always pack for every trip so that it makes it really easy. And so what this includes is a pouch with a charging cord for my phone, a charging cord for my laptop, and an international adapter. So essentially, anytime I'm going anywhere, I just take that pouch and I know that I'm set for any country. And then likewise, I have a pouch for toiletries. I keep it really, really minimal. I'm not above using, the shampoo and the conditioner at a hotel or an Airbnb. And so I keep that really tight, like sunscreen, minimal makeup, and that's in a separate pouch. And then my rule for clothes is basically like if I'm going on a 2-week trip, I'll see if I can get 14 tops and maybe a third of the bottoms. So, rough math, but like 14 tops and 3 to 4 bottoms, plus something to sleep in. And then my big trick is just really limiting shoes because shoes take up the most space in luggage. So I'll wear whatever my bulkiest shoes are on the plane. And then typically I just pack one other pair of shoes. So that's packing. So then on the way home, I'm hardcore. Even if I arrive at like 3 a.m, I essentially throw all my stuff in the laundry, wipe off my suitcase and put it away, so that I don't wake up to a full suitcase in the morning. I also love to use travel pouches for when I travel so that when I come home, I'll have one pouch filled with clean clothes, if there are any left, and one pouch filled with dirty clothes. And I can just throw that in the laundry without sorting when I get home. So that's like a little efficiency.
Awesome. Sounds like you have it all down to a science. This is inspirational.
I've traveled a lot. Yeah. And I think every time I've traveled, I feel like, oh, I can take less next time. Like it is shocking how little you really need. And I think there is this mentality of like, but what if, but most places in the world where you're traveling, like if you were to forget something or need something, you can find access to rent it, buy it, borrow it. So yeah, I'm definitely a less is more kind of gal.
And you don't have to pay extra for the baggage fees.
No, and no more waiting at the airport when you just want to be somewhere. And I have had my luggage get lost historically back in the day. So now I'm like, no one's taking my luggage and it's small enough I can always have it with me.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we have time for one more question. Okay, Benjamin asks, how are you organizing food at home? A plan for the whole week, maybe meal prep, or every day individually?
Okay, this is one of my biggest pain points. And I am very organized. I am not a natural born chef. And so meal planning doesn't come super easily to me. Luckily, my husband does love cooking. So the thing that I've come up with that works really well for us, because I think as a very busy couple, we don't have a lot of time to sit down and kind of meticulously meal plan, but we love food. He loves cooking. So here's our plan is every Sunday, I go to our local store called Berkeley Bowl, which is amazing. And I get 5 proteins, 5 bases, and 5 vegetables. And then in addition to that, so that kind of covers dinner, but it's almost like on one of those cooking shows where it's like, what are you going to pair with what? So I give it to my husband and let him do whatever he wants with it, basically. But he knows that on any night, there will be a protein of some sort, a base of some sort, and a vegetable. So like last night, he made tofu fried rice. And the night before, he made pulled pork sandwiches. So it's like he gets a little creativity. But I'm the one who gets to like go shop for the house. So I would say that has been a big hack that's worked for us and has eliminated meal planning, but just ensures that we have enough to work with. And then I do have a repeatable list of staples that include things like milk and butter and eggs and the things that we just always need in our home, lemons. And I am a shop in real life person, but I know many people love to have their grocery list just like auto delivered every week. I happen to live across the street from a large supermarket. So we also have that where like if we do forget something, we can run out, but we try to just do a once a week, get all the staples and get the dinner set up. And then that's been working pretty well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Super helpful. Okay. You mentioned a new book. I was going to ask what's next.
Yeah.
When can we expect this new book?
Yes, Organized Living came out October 3rd. So it is out all around the world, actually, and being translated into some other languages, which is very exciting. And it can be bought, at any online retailer or your independent favorite bookstore. So that is out. And my first book, Minimalista, details my whole process and toolkit. So that has been out for 2 years and is still doing great. So I invite you to check that out if you're feeling like you really want some tools and support to declutter and organize and personalize your home. And then Organized Living is kind of a great refreshing take on what organizing can look like for different types of people, in different types of homes with different tastes, different aesthetics, and different styles. So it's kind of a fun inspiration guide.
I absolutely agree. I actually picked up this book when I was traveling and felt immediately inspired. When I came home, I was like, all right, I need to reorganize. I need to clean things out and restructure everything. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes. So where can we find this book, Organized Living?
Organized Living, wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local mom and pop shop. Really, you can order it or find it anywhere. And it's also sold in the UK, Australia, Germany, and New Zealand currently. So it's been published with a different cover, but it's still the same book. So Organized Living by Shira Gill, you'll know it's the right one.
Yes, yeah. Beautifully done. You have been phenomenal. It was such a great time with you, learning more about your thought process and organization hacks. I want to thank you for joining us today at Talks at Google. Hopefully you come back. And thank you all that tuned in, and thank you for the phenomenal questions that you had.
Thank you so much.
Okay.